Yeah,
It
just
is
start her.
Today is Monday, August 12th, and this is a regular school board meeting. And we're calling this meeting to order. Janet, could you do roll call, please?
Charles Blackland,
Here.
Reed Campbell.
Here.
Tom Hagelin.
Here.
Sue Kern.
Here.
Ruth Nelson.
Here.
Bob Nystrom.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And is there a motion for the approval of the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Blacklands. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We're going to start out with our public input. Seems like it's sooner this time. Is there anybody who wanted to come forward and talk to the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll just go ahead and move forward here. Building project update. Who's going to talk to us? Thank you for coming.
Justin.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. So we had a good tour recently. We stopped at Forest View, which is tracking towards substantial completion this Friday. Stopped at Baxter Elementary, which we're right on schedule, getting vertical, coming out of the ground. And then we stopped at Harrison, which is also coming along nicely. It got the certificate of occupancy today. We did not stop at Nisswa, but that's kind of along with the other projects, tracking nicely, right on schedule, and looking forward to bringing you guys there next go around. That's about it for the projects that we have going right now.
Great, thank you. We're going to have more of a discussion here about the flooring at Baxter.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that you?
Yep, that's me.
Okay.
Correct.
Go ahead.
So, if you recall, we had a proposal request issued for additional terrazzo flooring at Baxter Elementary, and it's broke out in two sections, and it's the stairs and the locker bay. So we have for action $74,854 for the stairs and $91,705 for the locker bay. At oversight, we kind of went both ways on what we'd want to potentially do. Yeah, just looking for direction from the board on what route you'd want to go. That's on the second level, if you recall.
Second one.
Yep.
The locker bay.
The locker bay, yep, upper level of the locker.
But it's also a walkway.
It's a walkway, correct, yes.
And what were we gonna have there? What was planned?
That would have been VCT, or vinyl composite tile, yep.
And why terrazzo?
Longevity, it's a better product. I mean, VCT is common, but it's not on the same level as terrazzo by any means.
So that'd be consistent with the other?
No, it would not be consistent, so the standard is for this situation to be a VCT on an upper level.
I mean, the other floor or the other?
Oh, the lower level, yeah, it'd be consistent with the lower level, correct.
And one of the things that we talked about at Project Oversight is the stairway. We separated them. So the board had the opportunity to talk this through, but the stairways get a lot of traffic going in and out, bringing in gravel, salt, those kinds of things. And so the terrazzo, it is something that we would like to make more uniform in the stairway area just because it's so much, over the long period of time, it's really a good investment because it lasts a lifetime, basically. Whereas vinyl doesn't, and you'll be replacing it within a significant amount of years. The question was that to ask the board if they were interested in putting terrazzo on those steps for better wear and tear. But also, while we were doing it, if the board was interested, we wanted you to have the opportunity to know that we could do the walkway through. It would be the first grade, second grade, no, it'd be third and fourth grade up on the second level. So it would have terrazzo where all the kids are walking and then also into the locker bay area. And so at Project Oversight, we decided that we thought that this was a discussion more that the full board should have to make that decision if you felt that we wanted to do that. Currently, it was brought forward that we felt that there was the money in the budget in which to do that. But is it a precedent that you wanted to set and a direction that you wanted to go?
So all of our other schools have terrazzo on the main floor, the new additions, but not on the stairs or the upper floor. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. This is our biggest school, though. We're having 5 sections. I think that's why Tammy brought it forward in the first place, because our other 5-section school is a 1-level school, so there is terrazzo all the way through it. And this would be our largest school with the most amount of traffic. And right now, it is scheduled to be a 5-section school. However, if an enrollment grows, it could expand to a 6-section school. And they were just saying that if we were doing it, now would be the time to put the terrazzo in rather than the tile, if we wanted to do it eventually.
Okay. Have we had a whole spreadsheet made up of where we're at as far as the overall budget for all the projects together? Kind of, you might have done that at the last meeting.
Yeah, we did it the last
Yeah.
week or whatever.
Okay, when I missed, okay.
Yeah.
And then the upkeep of terrazzo, like they just polish these, and I think that's every year. Do we do that every year?
Minimum once a year, I guess.
Once a
I
year?
would
And
assume.
what's the cost of that? I mean, is that more costly than replacing the tile every 3 years or something?
Jeff or Earl would be a better person to ask, but from my understanding, it's probably pretty similar from VCT to terrazzo for the prep for yearly maintenance.
Yes, yearly maintenance is pretty much the same thing.
And how long does the VCT, what's the estimated life? Is it 20 years?
Most likely 20 years, depending on the
I think we talked about that too, that at Forest View does not have the terrazzo on
Right, on the
the
second
upper
floor.
or the stairs.
Right.
Stairs either, right?
Correct.
And there's issues already with a lot of that, some,
And it's been about that long, probably.
that's been 15, 16 years or whatever, but, and there's already issues of it chipping, cracking from the doorways. The stairs in particular seem like that
Yeah.
might make some logical senses from the maintenance and upkeep of the stairs.
Erica, I saw your head going back and forth. Can you tell us the length of time that you think vinyl lasts
Well, I was thinking more in that 15-year at maximum
Max.
range.
at maximum?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what Tom indicated, it's showing its life expectancy at Forest View.
Yep, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay?
So next item on the list, the second gymnasium. If you recall at oversight, I issued that estimate, that conceptual estimate to expand that gymnasium. We were looking right around 2.3 million for that second gymnasium. If we were to wanted to explore that route, that's design cost, construction cost, everything put together is what we're anticipating.
Did you say 2 million or
2.3,
2.3?
yeah, 2.336, I think, yeah.
And part of the reason it got brought up was the dollars are available for that, but also just future planning
Yeah.
as well.
And I think part of the issue was that when we did our initial design development as to what we brought forward to the board, we were asked to stay within our projected budget. And originally, we had 2 gymnasiums on the new Baxter Elementary School. But because we were over budget, one of the gymnasiums was taken off at that time. But we had talked about the synergy between Forest View and the new Baxter Elementary, that if there were tournaments or whatever in that area, that's probably potentially where we would have those kinds of tournaments between Forest View and the new Baxter Elementary. Because of the budget, our projection, we took one of the gymnasiums off, but left kind of the shell as to if we had the money at some point to put that second gymnasium on, we thought it would be a good idea to have that kind of roughed out so that we knew where it would go. Because with 5 sections, we really feel that we need more than one gymnasium. And then the bids came in, and the bids were within budget, and we thought that this was the time to at least bring it up, to let the board talk about it, to see if it was something, we aren't going to vote on this tonight, but if it's something that you wanted us to pursue moving forward. I think one of the issues that I have that I asked to have it brought up again is the fact that with 5 sections in that school, one gymnasium is going to be really small. Our other school that has 5 sections, Riverside, we will have 2 full-size gymnasiums there for 5 sections. And in the new elementary, we only have 1 gymnasium. And so we're bringing up the opportunity that we wanted to find out what it would cost, what would some of the changes be, and you shared that with us. And is it something that the board would like us to look further into and bring more information back? Or is it something that you think we should just wait with?
How much are we under budget on Baxter after those change orders?
I think about 1.8, if bid efficiency is showing about 1.8 million.
And then when I looked at all the other schools that we're gonna go over today, we're gonna be over on all of those, based on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like by 1.4 million, based on the,
Have it with me.
Conceptual estimating at this
Yeah.
point, at the
Yeah.
design development stage, correct? Yep.
so, I mean, I would love to add another gym, but we could wait a while to make that decision until we have
Certainly,
better
yeah.
numbers.
What if we were to
Kind of
put,
nervous, I keep looking at all these numbers and they
Yeah.
keep going up now, so.
what if we were at least put the footings in for it?
What you're saying
And then
for the.
have that,
Well, it would kick in a lot of design fees that aren't accounted for. It's not a bad idea, but there's other costs that we wouldn't be really seeing right off the bat, like the soft front end costs that we'd have to pay for, and you'd have a foundation wall sitting there in green space. It might look a little odd. Yeah.
So the wall to the north end wall of the gymnasium that's there. So you can't, I'm assuming you can't just remove that wall and move it
It's a
further?
non-expandable wall, so the intent is if we were to add another gym, that wall would stay in place and you'd access that from those 2 double doors on that north wall. Yeah.
Okay.
I think now is the time to research it. It's a really good idea.
And to at least look into it and get a little bit more
Yeah.
And then by the time we get that information, we'll have a better idea on where we're.
on the budget, the overall budget and everything too. I think so too.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, then the next up, the initial design developments for Baxter Early Childhood is first.
Sarah, would like to come up? So do you have that presentation? I don't want to mess it up. As I push the table over.
You guys are right down here. While she's doing that, I should introduce myself. I'm Sarah Kelsenberg with Wold. I think the last time we met to review the SD progress, you met with Val Peterson from our office. She's not able to be here today, but I am working with Val on this project, so I'm happy to be here to tell you how things are going in DD.
We'll get started here. So we're going to review Baxter Early Childhood Design Development, Garfield Elementary, Riverside, and Lowell. So you'll see Baxter Early Childhood here. I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to walk you through the floor plan here.
Yes. What I want to say is that this is our floor plan, and we have it kind of color-coded by what is happening. So if you start over on the right-hand side, you see some blue spaces, that's kinder care. Then towards the middle, you see some light blue spaces, that's ECSE. Over to the right, there's some other darker blue spaces, that's ECFE. Interspersed with that in kind of a darker cream color is the school readiness. And the kind of big point I want to make is that these big building blocks are virtually the same as that you saw in SD. You know, we really got our program pinned down in SD, and what we've been doing in DD is kind of really drilling in and looking at the details of what's happening inside these colored blocks. So we've had kind of an exciting couple months. We've been meeting with the staff and the director, and we've gone through some user group where we meet with the users in each area and really figure out into detail what is going to make their program work. So we talk about things like casework, what kind of casework, where should it be located, tack boards and marker boards, what height should they be mounted at, where should they be located. We even get into details like where should the outlets be and the data ports be to really serve this, to really help serve this program. And so we went through 3 rounds of that. Each round we do a series of drawings, and after our meeting we go and update those drawings with input from the staff. And at the end we publish a final user group drawing book that, you know, not only really helps gain input and ownership from the users, but we actually really use it as a check for the rest of the process, so that we can make sure, did we get this, did we get that? And so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see here, but I just wanted to give you a really brief idea of what we do. So for instance, this is an ECFE. This is the floor plan of an ECFE classroom. And you can see that we kind of are pointing out all the bits and pieces of what really is going to make this work well as an ECFE classroom. And then we also want to make sure that the users can really visualize what their space is. So we also do like a bird's eye view of that space. Kind of, we call it an axonometric, so that they can really see, you know, does it really make sense to have the teacher desk here or the casework there, or is this the best spot for the classroom sink? So while this big block picture hasn't changed a lot since SD, what's happening inside of it has.
Sarah, a question, the gray block on the left, it says staff building resource.
Yes.
What is that? Is that?
That is, I think, oh, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you. That's the mezzanine. It's an existing upper level.
Okay.
And right now it's used, I think there's some offices up there, some storage, and that's what we plan to use it for, is for storage.
Where do you access that?
There's 2 stairs, and so because it's not ADA accessible, we can't really use it for offices or classrooms, but we can use it for, we can take advantage of it for storage.
Okay.
So I'll touch on the secure entrance. So we've had quite a bit of discussion on secure entrances prior to, you know, this phase of this round of projects. So if you remember the term fishbowl, we have the same concept here, fishbowl here, and then the fishbowl here as well. So the reception will be able to unlock this door. I have trouble seeing. Oh, my glass, okay. Reception is able to unlock these doors, or actually have controllability of all doors, so that people come into this vestibule during school, get buzzed in through this door, and then they'd go out into the school through that.
Could you back up really quick? Where
Yes.
is that again?
This is Baxter Early Childhood.
No, I mean, where in the building?
Okay, let me show you. So here's the proposed parking lot, so the reception be right here.
Okay, thank you.
You know where the door is closest to the current cafeteria? That's the door we're talking about.
Great, thank you.
So they, again, people come through here, get buzzed into reception, and then get buzzed into the school through there. So it's the same program that we've been following on the other schools. Any questions on that? So here's the proposed site. So Wold, WSN, myself, we have met with the city of Baxter as well. They have some mandates that we're needing to follow, ordinances mainly, but, so you have two, entrance in and entrance in, they're both in and out. New parking here. It is expanded parking, because the existing building is being demolished. So it is expanded parking. There's a retention pond that's required, and there's storm piping that's actually getting routed back to another retention pond back here, but.
I had a question on
Yes.
so when the parents come in with their little ones, because these are the little kids,
Yes,
can they drive up along that sidewalk and drop them off by the door and walk them in quick and then go back to their car?
correct, that is
They have to park in the parking.
Park in this, yeah.
They want everyone to park in the lot and walk them in.
Keep in mind, there's additional parking to the northeast as well, that's staying as is.
So that's where all the teachers will park. This will
Correct,
just be
yeah.
for drop off and pick up.
And Kinder Club will park in that
Okay.
more northern lot by the
Yep.
cemetery.
This is Kinder Club here. And the bus drop-off is being maintained or actually added to a little bit. Yep.
So the kids will be bused there too?
There will be some busing there, correct?
Right now, I think it's special ed busing.
Yeah.
And I didn't hear, but did you say there was a lunchroom here? In this one
is.
area?
I mean, maybe we should go back a
Yep,
couple slides.
let's do it.
Yep, there is something, a unique thing about this program, is that, they are gonna be serving lunch in the classrooms, so right here is the existing, whoops, sorry. How do I get the mouse to work?
Well, the area we had talked about, it says large motor.
Right.
And
So-
I think you had brought that up about having that as a lunchroom possibly, and,
Well, what we are doing is we are putting pulling a serving window in there.
Okay.
So that space could flex
be.
as like a parent pizza night or a weekend event that's gonna have food served. That's not where lunch is gonna happen every day. Part of this program,
That been okayed with food service? Because when food service talked to me, she said that she didn't have the staff or the equipment to haul all the meals throughout this entire building. And I thought that's why we were still looking for some kind of a cafeteria space.
what I understood is that we've been working with Cullinex, our food service consultant, and we've met with the kitchen staff, and we met with the school staff, and it seemed like everyone was on board, that if they were given the proper equipment, they could make this happen. There's a lot of learning that occurs when you sit down and get ready for a meal and eat a meal family style and clean up after the meal. As far as staffing and dollars, I can't really speak to that.
Essentially, what we were told through user groups, that the kids that are gonna be using these spaces, they're not gonna be going to a cafeteria setting, is what we were told.
They're too little to
Too little.
really handle a tray and go through a line and open their milk.
There's staff back there we could maybe have come up and
Yes.
talk.
Yeah, I would love to. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth.
This is our first oversight too.
Hey, Tani.
I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We've had a lot of discussion on food service, and we have met with Alyssa and that team, and we have a kind of a new design within the kitchen, working through the structure of that space as well. So if you have specific questions, we do, most of our serving happens within the classrooms currently. Washington here, we kind of have a split structure based on the model of the space with 2 floors, and but most of that happens within the classroom space. We're talking about 2.5, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. Cafeteria structure is not necessarily the best fit for those eating.
Okay, so as far as the people that are gonna be taking it from the cafeteria to the rooms, who is that?
Well, Alyssa, when we met with them, we came up with a plan on how so she's been researching some kind of like hospital-style train systems to make sure that the food is still warm and up to compliance with serving. And then some support in educational staff to make sure that we disperse it quickly.
So then the teachers will have their lunch with the kids every day? Because obviously they'll have to stay in the room.
So how we run it now is, for instance, at 12 o'clock is when we start class, so from 12 to 2:45. So also the difficulty of having it happen in a different location is not all of our preschoolers eat. So right now, we can start lunch at 12, but it happens within the classroom, so there can still be learning and instructional play happening in the other side of the classroom while the staff are there. Our contracted staff would still be provided a lunch break in the middle of the class time, so they don't necessarily eat with the kids. But we also have snack with the kids as well, where all of that instruction happens at the circle tables. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. It's with the class instructional time that we have is less than 3 hours right now. So it is very time consuming to haul a bunch of 3-year-olds down the corridor into a cafeteria style. And then not all the kids are choosing to eat because they're not there all day and every day. And so this allows us to still provide some instruction time while some of the families are choosing to have their child eat. Sense.
So will the classrooms closer to the cafeteria be the ones that get more of the meals, so they don't have to go so far? Or I don't know how that works.
That's challenging to structure because we don't actually know if the kids are going to be eating.
Oh, okay, so
lunch.
you have all-day kids in there and part-day kids, but even some of the part-day kids eat lunch.
Correct. Yep, they have the option of choosing to. Yep.
Is there a way for them to get the food from the kitchen over here without going through the waiting area?
Yeah, I think that you added the double through another door, so you weren't coming through the reception.
I don't see it on there, so that's why I'm wondering.
We are not going through the reception area.
Okay.
Let me see if I can get the mouse.
I wonder if that's right here.
We did eliminate that because of that main corridor being so populated
Right.
with parents, because like Director Kern mentioned, is the kids are being escorted to the classrooms with the parents and sometimes with younger siblings in tow. So that main corridor is highly trafficked, and we don't really want to bog down the reception area. We do feel like the flow in the back of the kitchen behind the large motor space will allow for kind of a quicker, smoother transition. We can also, if you see that there's kind of a inlet within the large motor space to allow for some of the carts to be lined up there to kind of escort them out quickly.
So I can't really get the mouse to work, but can you see what we've done is we have kind of a dedicated hallway for delivering food, and it's to the right of the large motor room. It's kind of cream colored, so it will not be going through the reception. It'll be going down a corridor that the only reason to use that corridor is for delivering meals.
Okay.
And we do, if we did decide that that was problematic, there is a second door through the large motor space that could be utilized depending on scheduling of that large motor space. Typically, at the very beginning of the day and at that noon time, there wouldn't be a lot of activity in there, so it could be brought through that direction
That
as
might
well.
be better. I was just, when I saw the pictures, those nice pictures you have of the waiting area, and there's lots of people there and everything, and then you bring food through there, I'm like,
Yes.
I didn't think that was too good. I'd rather
And
have
also,
'em-
just to note, that whole left side, all of those ECFE classrooms do not, are not served meals, aren't served lunch and breakfast. So really, the only populated areas that could possibly would be those 4 school readiness classrooms. So like you said, structurally, depending on how we schedule classroom space, we could have some on that left side that maybe aren't scheduling breakfast and lunch. But definitely more of the populated sides are on the right that would utilize the meals.
That's correct, yep.
But we did create the large motor space to have that window serving and enough table space to be able to accommodate that if eventually we needed it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for stepping up.
All right, we'll keep moving. Any additional questions on the site here?
So we've somehow figured out how many parking spaces we needed, and that's gonna be adequate. Like, how do you figure that out? I don't know.
Well, it's the max, just about the max we can get in that space. Would you agree, Tim?
Okay, so it's not based on any, this is how many we need, it's more based on this is how many we can have.
Well,
We need to work through that. You know, the issue that we have that parking lot to the northeast of this facility kind of plays into that a little bit. And we haven't maybe dug into that completely, but I think for the space that we're looking at, we fairly well maximize that area.
Yeah, okay.
Because there is a drainage concern that we have at this school. We're trying to deal with that with the infiltration and ponding on the west side of the property.
no, it's working. Yeah, right here we have, that's that infiltration basin to handle some of the flooding that you see there.
So does this meets code,
It does.
and then does it allow for off-street parking for all staff?
Well, this isn't necessarily for staff. This is again for parents who are dropping off their young ones.
Yep.
Because the premise is with the age of the kids, they have to park
Sure.
in the parking lot and run. And this isn't a staging area like we have at our elementary schools.
So the staff parking then will be that other non-attached, okay. And from a code standpoint, that's all fine.
Okay.
So this is a view of our new entrance. What we wanted to do is on a fairly limited budget, create a slightly new look and an individual look for this school. So we do have our Brainerd branding, which is the blue pylon with the Brainerd logo. That will look the same as the other schools, the same color metal panel, same logo on it. And to, dress up and give an identity to the entrance, we are proposing a perforated aluminum panel. Will not trap any water, it'll just be like a rain screen. And you'll be able to actually see the existing brick through it, but it'll give it kind of a budget-conscious way to give it a new look. And then we've got a blue band that has kind of it's a little bit hard to see in this view, but it is a ribbon. It kind of has a curve to it. On the next slide, we're also going to bring some of that look to the corner of the gym, because what we are trying to do is get parents to drive not to the front entrance that's used today, but to drive around to the back, so we're trying to give them some wayfinding that the entrance is around the corner. So it's just simple and,
Sorry, wasn't there gonna be more of the blue that met the same color as the pylon on the corner for consistency? Because this is the part that you see from 210, correct?
correct, yeah. And are you thinking of kind of like a secondary pylon? Is that what you were?
Well, I thought when we talked about it, in that blue there with the B, that there'd be something on the other side that would signal that it still matches, or it still represents a ISD 181 school.
So, so maybe we, can continue to study this. I don't know if we want to look at a secondary location for the Brainerd logo. I don't think we really have a district standard for that, because I don't know that we have this situation where we're directing.
Maybe I was wrong, I just thought we had talked about.
Yeah, there was
some sort of a
something.
blue.
There was something blue there.
Yeah, that,
Because for me, and maybe this isn't the time to bring it up, but I guess
Yeah.
I will, is I like that, but it ties into the entrance, but to me, I'm more concerned about the blue being the consistent part, or the royal blue.
To me, it doesn't tell you to go around the corner either, and that the main entrance is the other way. And that was the purpose of that corner?
That is the purpose of the
Right,
corner,
and
yeah.
I like it, but to me, it doesn't do that.
Yeah. I think that we can continue to study that and enhance that a bit.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
And it might be a good spot for a second Brainerd logo, just maybe smaller. We'll study that and.
Yeah.
This is the reception area. I know that along with our exterior Brainerd blue pylon sign, we also want some consistency at our reception areas. So this desk is similar to the other desks. We've got a blue wall behind the desk with a digital display. And the rendering just shows that we have some nice natural light coming in and small ways in which it may slightly differ from the other reception areas, but still be consistent. And this is what we're calling the hub. If you're familiar with Baxter Elementary School, you have that existing media center right in the middle of the building, and it kind of creates like a roadblock from one half of the building to the other. And so what we've done is just kind of did the inverse. We opened up this media center and used it as part of our traffic pattern to connect one half of the school to the other. And you can see that we've got an area for waiting for children to play a little bit. Some maybe warm wood-like material on the wall. It's a higher space, so we know we're going to want some acoustic treatment. So we're showing some fun, brightly colored, hexagon-shaped acoustic panels. And this, just to orient yourself, you can see the doors leading to the outside. That is where the buses currently drop students off, and it's where they will continue to drop students off. And the main entrance is really behind you in the picture. And all around this hub are, we've grouped all the services that parents would maybe come into this space to take advantage of. Evaluation, speech, the little library, the nursery, the nurse, the large motor room. It's kind of like all those kind of shared functions are right here in the middle, and then the classrooms are off into either direction. So it kind of changes.
Are you planning the turquoise and the lime green in there too? Is that what the color scheme?
Well, this is what we're recommending right now, but we certainly have room to work on the specific color scheme. I know that there are some colors that have been selected. We'll continue to study those and work those in.
All right, touching on the schedule here. So this is the preliminary DD presentation. So the DD presentation is, I apologize, I don't have my glasses on today and I just cannot see. Can you read that?
For the, it's even smaller on
Design
here.
development,
Construction development, documents, 43 days, Tuesday, August 22nd.
final presentation is, whatever, the 28th.
Yes.
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 Again, I apologize. And then construction documents being due on the 24th of October. Yeah.
Justin, I think we should probably bring this back to project oversight and talk about this some more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Then going to just a quick overview on the budget. So as we're showing here, you know, having to put in the cafeteria, you know, pre-referendum, there was no anticipation of having upgrading the kitchen or the cafeteria, and putting in additional bathrooms to serve the use. We are tracking about $300,000 over budget, which is real similar to where we were at the SD stage. Yeah.
Yeah, we're over budget. We're gonna have to work on that.
Yep.
Just start your formulas for budgeting now for this project and the next three, they haven't been adjusted at all based on current bids that have come in on the other projects, have they?
We have looked at the previous bid projects.
You have?
Yes, absolutely.
So is it maybe fair to say that with the other projects coming in under, that these are going to be closer?
It's hard to know for sure, and where it's still at the design development stage, we don't have, you know, complete documents to drill in the pricing at this point. You know, we're probably at, 75%, you know, design right now. But I would say that we're probably pretty close to realistic from my review. where
And then
we're
we're
at.
also kind of tying up a lot of the contractors too on the
Correct,
first few,
yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I just get concerned if this is already over budget, and I understand these are just preliminary projections prior to bidding. But, you know, like last time we had a big surprise as far as additional design fees. There's no money for additional design fees and those kinds of things. And I think we need to be really careful about starting with it over budget prior to.
Yeah. We don't want those change orders again.
Great, any additional questions or comments?
Nope.
Hello again.
Thank you.
So, I'd like to get started here and talk a little bit about Garfield Elementary. If it pleases the board, I'd like to differ a little bit from the agenda and speak with Garfield. Sarah's up here, she's working with us on Garfield Elementary. And then we'll go to the projects, the Lowell and the Riverside from there, as a different architect, JLG architects are working on that, so. With that, Sarah?
This is a very similar situation to Baxter in that this is our floor plan and it's kind of color blocked, so you can see that, you know, the lime green are classrooms. The administration is kind of like a rustier red. And again, these big building blocks have not really changed significantly since the last time you saw them. But what we've been doing in DD is meeting with the principal and staff. We had 3 sets of user groups in the same way that I discussed with Baxter, so we could really kind of drill down on the details of what each of these spaces needs to make them work for their program. But I guess just to remind everyone what the scope of this work is, we're adding 2 first grade classrooms so that we can make this a full 3-section school. Can you want to circle where the first grade classrooms are? The mouse, right there.
Right there.
We're creating addition up by the kindergarten so that we can provide 3 similarly sized, similarly appointed kindergarten rooms so that they are all equal. Right now, they're very kind of different in the school. We are adding an addition at the front of the school so that we can, for the administration area, so that we can have a really functioning administration suite with a nurse and a workroom. And then we're adding a kitchen addition on to make it a full kitchen, full-service kitchen. And in addition, we're adding 2 small additions in the existing courtyard to create additional sped areas, sped spaces.
So is the security is a little different on this one, right? It looks like.
It really functions the same.
Does it? Okay.
You come in the main doors, and once school started for the day.
Oh, there it is, okay.
Right here, yes.
Yeah.
You have the same concept, man trap area here, and then the fishbowl here where controlled access from the reception, and then a panic button, if you would, at the reception, in both the reception and the principal's offices. So.
Okay. So that little
yeah,
fishbowl is it a little bit smaller than other ones, or does it just? No?
Well, we're, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're really treating the admin area as a whole as one fishbowl, and then the vestibule as another.
Okay, so it's hard for me to tell how big that vestibule is, but you can have.
I would be guessing. But
There's 3 doors there, right? So you could have at least.
Right.
People in there.
Yeah, it's a pretty good sized vestibule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then here you're looking at the overview of the civil drawings to date. The addition here on the front northwest corner of the building to incorporate a larger cafeteria, sped spaces taking up some of the interior courtyard. We have a first grade addition here, and then a kindergarten addition to get us into the standards for the square footages for our kindergarten rooms. Additionally, you'll see over here in the parking, there were 2 homes. I believe it was 2 homes, maybe it was 3, but there were 2 homes here that were reclamated for this space here, so.
This is a rendering of our exterior. We are incorporating our blue Brainerd branding pylon, and what we've done is we created a new canopy that more is elongated along the building rather than sticking out like a tongue as it does now. We just feel that that is more in keeping with that elongated school, and it's a little more welcoming. You can see the kitchen to the left. The kitchen addition that brick will match the existing brick. The office addition to the right is we're going to use an accent brick there. Otherwise, the rest of the building, where we're doing the additions on the classrooms, we're gonna match the existing building, so that it is a seamless addition. Here's our rendering of the reception area, and again, it kind of follows that the district standard, or at least trying to have some consistency in all of our reception areas. So we have the reception desk with the logo on it. We've got the blue wall behind the reception desk. And we have a lot of natural light with a large curtain wall to the right, and then another window by the receptionist.
Are the, not to get into the details, but the desks you've mentioned, like so on this one, it's more of a dark versus the other was a maple or light oak or something. Is there a standard on what we're doing for?
So I think I'll work with Erica a little bit more on that, but what I understand is there's 2 colors of P-lam that's in a district standard.
There's actually 3. And they're shown on the board right over it.
Okay, so.
Because in the first round of projects, we had a lighter tone for Baxter, we had a medium tone for Harrison, and a darker tone for Nisswa. So we'll look to use those 3 colors on the next round and determine what that.
Just out of curiosity, how do you decide what tone to use for Garfield?
Some of the schools are dictating that based on some of their, like in Garfield, there's gonna be a lot of existing doors that remain.
Okay.
So we'll look to try to pick the tone that
Sure.
matches that as well.
Okay.
And in particular, this space is really filled with a lot of natural light. So we felt like you could go with a little darker, richer P-lam, but ultimately it's kind of a matter of taste, and so, you know, this is preliminary. It can still be discussed and tweaked. This is the main entrance is right behind you. The gym is to the left. This is a little corner. It's the lost and found right now. It's that
Sorry,
area.
The cafeteria is to the left.
Oh, did
here.
I?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
yeah. No?
cafeteria, yeah, is to the left. Right now, that little corner there is where there is quarry tile on the floor, and it's the lost and found. But what we've done is we have created another area with nice built-in cabinets to organize and store the lost and found. And we can take advantage of this as kind of a welcoming seating area, especially if there's like a basketball game going on in the cafeteria gym, or Girl Scout or Boy Scout event. And, you know, the colors are preliminary, but I think that we need to make kind of a nice seating area here.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about lost and found. Did we create that in all the schools then? A lost and found area? I mean, when you go into forestry, it's really ugly where they have their lost and found.
It's really ugly everywhere, I agree.
I like that it's not right there when you come in, yeah. Never thought of that.
So here again is the schedule. All 4 projects right now are tracking on the same schedule. We're going to leave here tonight, and tomorrow we'll be continuing to work on the construction documents, having planning for a presentation for the final CD documents on 11/4, and bidding out from 11/4 to 11/28. Is the schedule. So, in the meantime, prior to bid out, of course, we have another board, oversight committee meeting, which will present any comments, make any changes, and present those. And then, of course, the final DD approval board meeting on the 26th.
Cale, will all the bid awards be in December for these 4 buildings?
Right now, we're scheduled to do that, and yes, if we want to be aggressive on it, yeah, we've got the ability to do that, yeah. I know there's a larger discussion as to what might benefit the projects as a whole as far as pricing and getting back the best competitive pricing as possible, and that's a market gauge at that point, and I think the team as a whole make that decision, so. The budget, we have no alternates being priced at the time. You can see here, for Garfield, we are a little over budget. That one threw me for a little bit of a loop, but Sarah and I talked about it, and it's quickly attributed. We originally did not have new lockers in the project base bid, and in this one, you are seeing the numbers for new lockers throughout the school in the base bid. So, and those numbers coincide exactly. So, you know, maybe that's something as we move forward, we take that out and offer it as a add alternate and make a decision if we want to put them in the project at that point. So.
But if I could just make a little plug, that wasn't just me making, thinking it was a good idea. It was really input from our user group meetings. And we came to realize that to replace the flooring in the corridors, we were going to have to remove all the existing lockers, replace the flooring, and then put the existing lockers back in.
That's right.
And so it felt like it was a good opportunity to get pricing for it, because these existing lockers go all the way to the ground. If we put the new lockers in, we could meet the district standard of having the lockers that are a foot off the ground so that boot storage could happen on the floor. So I think it was worthwhile getting a price for it, and then.
So is that included in here?
Yeah, it's about what the overage is.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
So, yeah, again, we're basically tracking what our original base bid numbers were in SD phase, so.
I really love how you've opened the space and have those vibrant colors in there. So many of the older elementary schools, they remind me of when I was in school, like in the 1960s. And it's just really nice to see that.
Good, I'm glad. It's exciting.
A question actually to Bob, and this might be, I like what you said. My only question though is, when my wife and I, we built a new house about a year or so ago, but before that we looked at countless homes throughout the area. And once in a while we'd find a home that wasn't remodeled in one part and then heavily remodeled in another, and it seemed uneven. I'm not in any way person that's into fashion, but in terms of consistency, would it be less expensive, or could we save some costs if we weren't, some of the design of those newer areas didn't have that modern of a flair to them? Although I like them, I just wonder the cost. Like even like the ribbon on the front of the Baxter early childhood building and that type of thing. It's not a question that we have to talk about now, but perhaps an oversight and whatnot, but.
Yeah, some of the interior finishes and the exterior finishes, they come at, they're all different price points. And, currently right now, for the projects that we've presented, they are taking those into consideration within the budget. So, for instance, the metal panel that you're seeing, that wave metal panel on the Baxter Elementary, that's a considerably different square foot number as if you were just to do an EFS or a brick. So. But if that's something that we need to detail out further and just kind of understand those pricings more detailed as we move forward, then certainly,
To me, it's
certainly
just-
what the CD drawings allow us to do.
And for me, it's more of a parking lot issue, I guess, for the board than moving down, than, I don't know. Because it's also something when it's more modern like that. I'm concerned that 10 years down the road, we're gonna have to, or further down the road, we might have to change that. And some of the things I like a lot about the older schools in Brainerd are, they're designed with some thought in mind that have lasted throughout the years. And
and the rendering itself may contribute a little bit more to that modern look. I mean, really, your school, the corridors are existing. We're putting in new flooring and a new ceiling, but it's really just like, for instance, at Garfield, it's just that little corner that we're adding some light fixtures maybe a little dropped ceiling area. It could be a circle, it could be a square. We could just leave it just acoustic ceiling tile. You know, I think the nature of the rendering, it's kind of hard to really show what's existing. And so it all looks brand new and modern. And really, there's just going to be a little oasis of freshness in the middle of your existing school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it.
Are there any questions then, anybody else, before we move on?
Okay. Well, at this time, I'd like to, if there's no
Thank
other
you.
questions, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce Adam Barnett with
Thank you, Sarah.
JLG Architects. And he will come up and help me present the next wave here, Riverside and Lowell Elementary, so.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we'll start with Riverside Elementary here. Our color coding pattern is a little bit different since we're not kind of redesigning or relaying out space for the whole building. We've got it coordinated between addition work, so completely new construction, light remodel, and heavy remodel. So the blue tone is where we're doing additions. You can see the gym on the plan north side, some areas around the current link between the two halves, and then a little bit for the staff lounge right at the new gymnasium. And then through the center of the building, we're creating a new common space. So what is kind of a multi-purpose room right now with the stage on the end is going to be renovated to be a kitchen and dining space. That's kind of right in the center there. Your entry is on the very bottom in the middle, and doing some upgrades to some of those administrative spaces there, along with the secure entrance work. And then on the kind of the upper right side are the kindergarten rooms that are getting completely overhauled and revamped with some slight renovation, nothing major in terms of blowing open walls or anything like that. And then the sped rooms throughout, and then the corridors that are currently very yellow are going to get a facelift as well. So that's kind of high level overview of the project. One thing I did want to point out that kind of differs from our schematic design submission, if you look at kind of the corridor that runs left to right, just above the media center there, and if you follow that all the way to the right, there's a first grade room. During schematic design, we were proposing to, kind of continue that hallway out to that parking lot on the south end of the building. And much like Sarah mentioned, through the design development process, we had the user group meetings, sitting down with the staff, and really start to fine tune these spaces. One of the things we were running into was that we were short sped space. And we kind of tried to figure out how we could kind of fit everything they needed within there. And it really came down to the fact that a corridor has a lot less value than that space being used for special ed. That if the district gets property on that end of the building and expansion occurs or something, at that point in time, that hallway can easily go in. But why do it now on speculation? When you have special ed staff that could really use that space. So I did want to point that out specifically.
Is that new gym space the same size as the new Baxter gym?
Not sure on the new Baxter gym. I believe it's the same size.
So we've got it sized for a regulation high school basketball court, which is around 5,000 square feet or so. And then we can see we've got kind of a slight buffer around it for the boundary. It's certainly not being designed as a competitive gym. It's really more for the students and curriculum, with the understanding that that's its main purpose. They've got the existing gymnasium there with larger seating and that sort of thing. So really replacing the kind of multi-purpose gym space that they have now, the one I mentioned with the stage in it.
Playground space that's been displaced by the gym, is there going to be other new playground space?
Yeah, Kayla, if you wanna.
Yeah, so,
go to
yeah,
the site
we can
plan?
go to the site plan here real quick.
I guess we can bounce back.
Bounce back. Is that where it was showing here? It's actually showing better on an overview. Here, Bob, is a playground space off to the southeast of the new gym, and an additional new basketball court. One of the things when we met with the FIAD and all the teachers, to be frank, is that the green space, to maximize the amount of green space, it seems that the kids, for every kid that you have using a swing set or a jungle gym, you have 3 or 4 kids out there in the green space playing football and soccer. And so the green space was really important to them, and so this is the concept that we came up with. So. I'm
Going back to the
going
gym
the wrong
size,
way.
I was just thinking for the
Yeah, do that.
discussion we had with a potential second gym for Baxter, if later on, if we could just find out if this new gym is the same size as the one that's the new Baxter.
The one that's being proposed could be added, is that we were discussing
No, the
earlier?
the one that's already being built right now.
Gotcha.
And then what size that
Okay.
second, but,
About 1,500 to 2,000 square feet smaller.
this one is?
This one is, Riverside is. So Baxter's just slightly larger, still regulation basketball court, but Baxter just has some more room around it, essentially.
Kind of like the
Seating.
existing
Seating,
gym.
yeah.
And the second gym that we were thinking of adding to Baxter, would it be more that size?
It'll be about 100 by 70, about the same as what we're currently building. That's what we're.
So we could save a little money, but.
Little bit larger than what you're seeing here.
The existing
Not do it
Baxter.
with the seating
It's
in
built
the second one.
No, the one that we're building right now.
and
Just
Baxter,
sit
that one
around the
that we're at
perimeter
today,
if you're,
that's
Because you
little
wouldn't need a
bit bigger
stage
than-
for the second one, or you'd use,
right?
okay,
Okay.
so.
Moving on, we, again, get into the controlled access and entry space here. You have your man trap area here. You get buzzed in or card reader into the man trap area, and then you're buzzed into the reception area. You get your credentials, your visitor's pass, what have you, and then you can enter out into the school. In the case of emergency, then this place becomes, the admin area becomes a lockdown. So if you do have a disgruntled person in here, they're not able to leave. Here, looking at the overall site plan, really just shows you from a bird's eye view of the additions here. We have the receiving addition, the gym, and I believe that is at STEM or
Yep,
AST?
AST room. Yep.
AST rooms there, and some of the work to be done on the civil. One of the things to note here is that we had a existing fuel oil tank here. We got a limited access to this back area right now, so we're taking the dumpsters, we're moving things into this area here in the receiving area, so.
The dotted line on the right, was that where the hill where the hill starts? On the
Dotted
right-hand
line on
side?
the right, yep, I think you can cast a bobber from that spot there. But yeah, I believe that's the high buff mark on the river, or the,
So very simply here, this is a look at the proposed new front entry, eliminating kind of the elongated, flat paper sheet canopy with kind of the V-shaped columns, which not really sure what that ever tied into with the building. So we're proposing getting back to kind of the stone color and kind of creating this half archway over the entry doors, and then you can kind of see the branding wall adjacent to that. So nothing too fancy or elaborate, but just trying to have something that speaks more to the language of the existing building and then still meet your district standards for branding and attractiveness there.
On the district branding, weren't we going higher with, the other buildings, a little higher than the roof line? On the other branding ones?
We looked at that at one point in time, and I think it looked a little out of place, but I think we might have had it just too tall. You know, if it's just a matter of getting a separation, you know, maybe it's just a foot or two, might feel right. But that's how we got to here, but we could certainly explore bumping that up, not quite as far as.
Be consistent with the buildings.
Maybe, would you like to see some options maybe at the 20th meeting, showing that a little extended above? Okay.
You know, one thing that just occurred to me with, and I'll look at Dave and Brainerd, but with having three now different architectural firms, you could potentially get three different viewpoints and likes. And so I'll use Charles' analogy. When my wife and I built a home, there's two different opinions, and now we've got three, yet we want to have consistency. So I don't know how we could talk about this perhaps next week in the oversight, that we kind of stick to our original kind of how we went into things, because we're going to get different flavors of likes here.
You know, I think that's a really good recognition to make on your part. I think, I'll say the flip side of that coin is also that each one of these buildings is different. You know, for instance, on Garfield, the one that we just looked at, has a very flat front.
Right.
You know, so what they're proposing is kind of a linear kind of element might fit with that language. Whereas this one, you've already got that admin wing that kind of bumps way out. You know, so there probably isn't going to be this kind of blanket concept to apply to every building. But I think you have a great point, though, that, you know, you maybe want some guardrails on what the front of these all look like, so you're.
At least that Brainerd blue should be, like even the logo thing looks smaller on that one or something, but.
Sure.
And you know, we are adhering to the standards that were established, and even if you look at the one projects, they're all different.
Yeah, and not that we need to cookie cutter.
Cookie cutter.
I'm a baker.
And then these 3D views were just kind of to help convey the location of the additions and the context for the additions. And again, we kind of colored them in alternate color to highlight them. I think we got to the elevations. You could see the material shown, but one of the things I would like to point out that's going to be a wonderful feature of this is that this is that cafeteria. And right now on that wall, there's kind of an overhang and the setback, and there's like 4 almost double hung kind of punched windows. And what we're proposing is to infill that whole thing with a ribbon of translucent panel to really bring some nice daylight into that cafeteria space. Like I said, it's gonna be translucent, so it'll actually diffuse that daylight versus clear glazing, where you could end up with some glares and some harsh light in there. So we think that's really gonna help enhance that space, and now that we're opening that space into kind of that common central corridor, you'll get some of that borrowed daylight flooding all the way into the center of the building. So it's gonna be really, really nice effect, I think. And so then on the elevations, again, kind of sticking to the district standards, not reinventing the wheel. The gymnasium piece is gonna be architectural precast concrete, just like all your other projects. You know, the blue metal panel by the door, and the brick masonry, for the infill additions, that will match. I've actually got about 70 pounds of brick in my car that I'm gonna dump on Kale's lap after the meeting, to get the, project oversight committee, out, both here in Lowell in the next couple of weeks. We've got a couple options from some brick vendors that have done a really good job trying to match what's there and get things to really tie in nicely.
Thank you, Andrew, down there. But, yeah, I agree.
And here, again, just another slide here for the schedule, continuing to work on CDs for your review and approval on the 4th of November, and bidding from the 4th to the 28th of November. Construction, of course, starting in the spring. Budget sheet, here you can see that we're tracking a little under budget, a little over 1% under. Yeah, this one's been a little bit more manageable, a little bit easier to kind of fit and plug and pull things and put the right amenities into the correct spaces, so it's on budget, so.
Good job.
I think one of the things that, an opportunity that might give us is we've gone through the user group meetings, we've heard some things, for instance, the 2 existing kindergarten rooms, can we do some new cabinets in there and do some things like that, things that we didn't have in the project initially. But this is kind of setting us up nicely to maybe identify some of those things and bid them as alternates. Being that we are this close, that tells me it's a good opportunity to have some alternate bids, because we're already tracking in a pretty good spot and slightly under. So I'd like to identify some of those things that we heard from the teachers and staff in those user group meetings that we could design and bid that way to give you guys options. So.
That sounds good.
Any questions on Riverside?
Remember this when we get to the low budget, okay?
Yeah, right. That one was a little bit more of a problem, problem.
You get the blue
project,
star for
but-
the day so far.
Yeah.
Now, what's next?
Okay.
So on to Lowell.
Okay, so Lowell Elementary here, these are the 3 floor plans, kind of superimposed. The bottom one, the top left, excuse me, is the lower level plan. So the 2 kind of blue colored rooms towards the top indicate addition of new construction, and those are kindergarten classrooms. And then below them is the 3rd kindergarten classroom, and then the other spaces on the lower level are your AST space, a Spanish room, special ed, and then kind of a common space and teacher resource space, along with music on the right to that plan, and then you see some boys and girls toilets in the middle there, just left of the music. And then the plan to the right of that is going to be the at-grade level plan. So again, the blue indicating in fully new construction. So the far right side of the plan would be the administrative space. You can just kind of see there the new entry doors on the far right, and then a new gymnasium multi-purpose space on the plan north. Some lockers to the left of that, and then I believe it's first grade classrooms to the left of that. So those are within the new construction areas, and then in the remodel, I'll start with the large box towards the bottom of the plan. That was the previous multi-purpose room, again with a stage that we are proposing to be demolished, and then that large box is being basically halved. You can see it's kitchen space on the right, and then cafeteria dining space on the left. And then the rest of that floor is pretty much dedicated to academic space for 1st and 2nd grade in the remodel. The plan on the bottom would be the uppermost floor. Again, you can see the new classrooms in blue there. Those are 4th grade. And then the rest of the building being remodeled for 3rd and 4th grade. And then each grade has a teacher staff collaboration room, and then there's a book room, and then new boys and girls toilets on both the main and upper floors. Any questions on the floor plans?
Okay.
Actually, Kale, if you would bounce back. Similar to with Riverside, I would like to point out one notable change from the schematic design phase. During the schematic design phase, we were designing and space planning for a 3-quarter kitchen. So initially, what that did was half of the administrative space was actually within the bounds of the existing building. And so we were directed to design and plan for a full kitchen. And ultimately what that did was increased the area of the addition a little bit. And so all of that administration space falls within new addition so that we could accommodate the full-size kitchen. and still not have to reduce any of the dining cafeteria space, which was one of the things that they're really excited about. I believe we were able to kind of cut their student dining from, I think, 3 blocks down to 2 by giving them more dining space.
Is that a full-size gymnasium?
So that's a great question. So this gymnasium is not a full-size gymnasium. Right now, this gymnasium is sized equal to their multi-purpose kind of gymnasium space that they have now. We do have an alternate bid already in the documents on this one to go to a full-size basketball court, less the larger bleacher seating, but you would go to that larger space. That was one of the things we worked really closely with Todd on as we developed this and proposing that new multipurpose space, and he said, it makes sense, providing it's not any smaller than what they have now. And so that was kind of what was driving it, knowing that we could do an alternate for the full size.
The full size.
What about lockers? Are the lockers the existing, or are they new?
We actually have got a combination of new and existing. Yep, so I can't remember the total count. I think it was around 500 or so, but that's occurring between new and existing. So like I mentioned, just left of the new gymnasium, there's a kind of a locker area right there. Yep, and then the lower level, the corridors are lined with lockers, and then I think, sorry to bounce around, but back to that first floor, kind of just below the new locker area. I think you were right to the right of that, Kale. We've kind of got
Right here.
Yep, in the corridor, and then right there is a locker area as well. So, and we had a lot of discussions about that too, and should they be on the floors, and everybody said that they're hitting their lockers before they go outside, so it kind of makes sense to have them on the lower portion, closer to the doors that would get them outside.
And then again, the secure entry diagram to show us how we would maintain the security access point here. The man trap area into this to the new vestibule coming into the new admin area. And locking hardware, electronic strikes, functioning similar as in other schools, so.
The site plan, this has gone through a few iterations. One of the things during design development that we did was sit down and have an additional meeting with the folks at City Hall. Tim with WSN, our civil engineer, and Kale and I, and we worked with them for quite a while and try to make sure that we're keeping the folks down at City Hall happy as much as possible. But, so differing from the schematic design, the parking lot that's new to the right there, where you're purchasing up some residential lots, the city requested they keep the alleyway down the center of that block, so you can see the parking is kind of somewhat bisected there, but Tim's got that kind of worked out the best we can and still accommodate that. And of course, I'll have some landscape screening from the other houses there to the right off the screen. And then we've got a receiving area that would come into the kitchen, kind of the dark shaded box.
Right
and
here.
plan south there, yep. And then on the plan north side of the school, you'll see kind of a drive aisle that comes in that would allow them to bring deliveries to the new gymnasium. If they're gonna bring more seating or chairs or musical risers, what have you, they could access that. But also, getting back to that lot there would help serve for snow removal and winter maintenance.
So is that aisle remain open then for through traffic?
Which one?
This one
The
right
alley
here.
that's going through that you mentioned?
I believe what drove that is the city to be able to do their public snow removal for the property owners on that block.
You're correct.
So I believe it'll be paved in the portion that would be you guys' ownership, and then I think it would just tie in and it would be gravel, gravel alleyway beyond that. As far as being through street, I mean, it would be open to the public just like any other alleyway in the city, but I think primarily it would be used by those property owners. Tim, feel free to chime in if I'm
So they won't let that not be a through traffic.
That's correct. And
Right.
Harrison is the same
Is
way.
that-
They already currently have a few dead-end alleys in town that they don't like because the premise behind this is you have residents that use that for access, so it's garbage, vehicle parking and things like that. So they're trying to minimize the amount of dead ends that they have, so they've pushed us or asked us to look at this. So what you'll see coming forth on Harrison in a week or so is the same premise where we won't have a dead end alley there either. We'll have a gravel drive that'll come down and go through our parking entrance.
I have a question on the, second? No, the revised street where, right next to the parking lot, parallel to it?
Right here?
Yeah, and then you have those parts of the curb that kind of jut out on the, I guess it'd be the east and the west edge there.
Yep, and then one down here
Is
that's
that,
covered
is there a
up.
reason for that? Is that something we have to do? I noticed that on Garfield as well.
So I think typically those are provided for pedestrian safety. They like to narrow the street width where the sidewalks occur. So I believe we're actually, are we bumping those out or are we carving that in, Tim, for drop off?
I think these are already existing. They are.
No.
Okay. Yeah, but again, the premise is to really narrow that pedestrian traffic way that we have so that we improve the safety for pedestrians in those locations.
And then the bump in area would be drop off, parent drop off. So pull in and you drop the kids off and then pull out of there.
Okay, any other questions on the site plan? Moving on.
So this is the 3D view. You can kind of tell the existing building is kind of in the background from this angle. You can see the little half moon element on the existing building in the back right there. And what you're seeing in the foreground, if I'll use that term, is the gym addition on the front left, and then the classroom addition where you can see it goes up about 2.5 stories there. One of the things I'll point out is that we're planning on using the architectural precast concrete panels for both of these elements. So that's very typical for your gymnasiums on all the projects thus far. But we went around a lot and had a lot of discussion that with this kind of classroom tower that's also being added, the architectural precast concrete wall panels made a lot of sense in building that building block as well. And one other benefit that we're seeing with this is because our floor-to-floor heights have to match the existing building, which are very close together, these wall panels tie in very well with precast concrete floor systems, which means that we don't have deep steel beams or bar joists that increase that depth of the floor, meaning our ceilings would have to be smaller. And so it seems to make a lot of sense every way we cut it. We worked with the folks at Wells. I think they're providing a lot of the precast already. And we're able to do this fairly economically by having them do like a light etched finish on the interior side, smooth, that can just be painted. And so it's going to be extremely durable, much like concrete block, but being it's part of that one system for the wall, it's probably a lot cheaper than building a block wall and if we were doing brick on the outside. So every way we looked at it, it seemed to make a lot of sense in terms of how it would look and in terms of dollars and being smart about how we use your dollars and the community's dollars. And then you can see on the left side there, kind of the single-story piece, that's your new administration addition. You see the main entrance there, kind of pointing at the door. And on this one, we've got the branding wall at the corner of that administration. So it can actually face 2 streets and kind of double. Yeah, it can kind of double the marketing value or whatever you want to kind of consider that. So there's kind of a similar bird's eye view from the opposite side. And then this would be the street level view here. And, you know, again, trying to respect the existing buildings. And we recognize that if you go out to Lowell, it's an extremely heavy building, right? It's all masonry with a bunch of vertical windows. And so, we're not looking at like a thin light canopy or anything like that again. We're looking at kind of another heavy block that we've carved out that entryway and put in a large amount of glass to kind of see that that's the entry, and bring you in through that secure process that Kale mentioned previously. We did look at the branding wall being on the gymnasium piece, and again, that's a little taller, so it was a little taller there. But I think that was also set back from the street. So I think putting it on this corner gets a lot more bang for your buck. We can wrap it, it's closer to the streets, it's closer to the sidewalks. So that's kind of where we landed with that element.
And then the overall schedule, again, presenting for final DD approvals on 8/26, continuing construction document development into 11/4, which we would meet again, and for your blessings and approval, sending out for bidding, and from 11/4 to 11/28. So,
Looks like December 16th is going to be a busy day.
yes, yes.
Because, it looks like all the buildings are at that date.
That's when we would make the, yes, that's at that point, we would be making the bid of recommendations and coming in front of the board for bid award.
And explain what goes on between the bid procurement and then the bid award. I'm a little naive with that.
Well, it's really just a matter of verifying scope and qualifying proposals, and.
So if someone's not qualified, you can just say,
Right, just getting down and drilling down into the nuts and bolts. You can do so much with a bid form and get so much information, but then it's those week-long conversations afterwards to determine who's gonna be the best contractor for the project.
Especially with some of these projects being a little more complex, right?
Oh,
For
okay.
them to be able to have those conversations with the contractor, make sure they fully understand the scope and that their bids will be accurate.
Now, the elephant in the room here, this budget. We've always been tracking this one a little bit, a little over budget. There's a myriad of things that come to that. One of the things that Adam discussed, going to the full-size kitchen in here, added about half of what we're over. But with that being said, the need to go to a 4-section school, and the kind of the constraints that the building constrained us to. There was some additional square footage that we needed to add into the new addition, and the end result is about $550,000 over budget. So, a big one. Then we do have one alternate on this one, the full-size gym, and that is, like you can see there, tracking at about $357,000 to add that larger gym. So.
It's an ad alternate, though. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Yeah.
so when you're over budget like that, is your hope that the bids will come in really low? Is that sort of how you hope to make that up?
Good luck.
Well, we pray, you hope, but you also have to do other things besides pray and hope on it.
Okay.
At that point, there's two trains of thoughts: go in and do a VE process before you even go out for bid, and just get a laundry list of potential alternates. What that happens is that sometimes frustrates contractors from bidding it. It's a difficult bid. There's a lot of risk in bidding things that way. Sometime, and then the other train of thought is to do it after the bids come back and see what that number is of what we need to make up and go through that way. So, yeah, I think at some point we're gonna have to make that decision, but.
So, and I think in terms of design, we're trying to be as frugal as possible. You guys have done a great job identifying standards for colors and materials. So again, doing what we can to hit those and not reintroduce the wheel or embellish too much, you know, let the daylight that comes into the spaces kind of highlight some of the things. So really trying to be conscientious of that, even to the point of, you know, in design meetings, we're asking each other, you know, within the design team, you know, do we really need to do it this way? Are there other options? And Kale's in on all those calls as well to kind of make sure that everybody on our team, especially with this project, is fully aware of where it sits and everything that we could possibly do to try and get that as close to the budget as possible.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? No? Okay. Thank you.
Next up, we have the high school bleacher update. Scott.
Hello,
Hi,
good
Scott.
evening. I will keep this very brief. So we brought NIPA pricing to oversight last week Tuesday through NIPA, which stands for National Intergovernmental Purchasing Alliance. The question was asked the other day, that's what it stands for. We went through Sourcewell, we got the same Sourcewell pricing for the Irwin seating, which gives us 1,745 seats and 8 dedicated ADA stalls for 1,753 seats. So we got that pricing back. We also got the updated renderings back for the Irwin seating. We also went through to Hussey Seating, which is another bleacher manufacturer, and I just today got their kind of preliminary layouts back, and they have 1,728 seats with 18 dedicated ADA stalls, giving us 1,746. So very, very similar systems. I don't have the pricing updated yet through Easy IQ or IQ Easy, whatever it stands for, through Guardian. But as soon as I do, I'll be bringing that to oversight next week, Tuesday, as well as the updated renderings. So that's my update. Any questions?
Perfect.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Thank you. Next up, the approval of the minutes from the special school board meeting. I believe it's supposed to say July 29th here. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Hagelin, a second from Director Campbell. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. The consent calendar. We have a lot of field trips. Was there-
And Charlie's here if there's any questions.
Okay. Does somebody have a question regarding them, or why did we have so many, or?
Well, I don't ever remember approving those before. Maybe we did, and maybe it's just.
Just seems like a lot.
Yeah, come on.
Here he comes.
Yes, as we updated our field trip policies and attendance taking in terms of those said field trips, it was very clear in the definitions that were created in that policy creation that this must come forward to the board. These are really standard trips that our sports teams take. These are non-tournament trips. The policy that the board has approved allows us to do tournaments, which postseason tournaments, without field trip approval. So when we make the state hockey tournament, like we did last year in the girls, for example, we don't come for a special request to you. That's just an extension of that regular season. But when we do overnights during the regular season, our interpretation of that policy is to make sure you're aware and that you approve of those trips. And typically, it is our practice in the activities department. The school district does not pay for anything beyond the transportation for those trips. So fundraised dollars are used for hotel rooms, for any food that is purchased for the student athletes to support that. We pay for some of our postseason expenses, but not during the regular season.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Blacklands. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Next up, we have site reports and communications. We have an update on special education and autism with Jennifer.
And team.
And a team whose names I don't know.
Thank you for waiting so patiently.
Thank you for having us here tonight.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Jen Johnson, the director for the Paul Bunyan Education Cooperative, and I have some of my team members here tonight. I have Kate Hurd here. She is an autism consultant, and I have Amy Peters, who is also an autism consultant. And then Nancy Anderson is right behind us, and she'll be coming up in a little bit. So thank you for having us. So just a reminder, the Paul Bunyan Co-op is an organization that serves 6 member school districts in the area, and we focus on providing special education services and enhancing the educational experience for students who are on IEPs.
Jenny, what are those 6 districts?
We have Aiken, Brainerd, Crosby Ironton, Pine River Bacchus, Pequot Lakes, and Pillager.
Okay.
And our goal is to enhance all students to become career and college ready. So we have currently 33 staff members employed at the Paul Bunyan Co-op. As you can see up on the screen, we have a variety of services that we offer. We have 3 early childhood coordinators, an audiologist, 2 autism consultants, 1 behavior specialist, a blind vision teacher, a DHH teacher, 4 occupational therapists, and 1 CODA, 1 orientation and mobility teacher, 2.5 physical therapists, and we have 9 school psychologists. And we do have a posting for a school psychologist that we have had for the last year, that we are still looking for another school psych. And then we have 3 office staff members that support all of us. Here is information that we have on the last 5 years for our child count. And as you can see, the numbers in Brainerd have increased 4.4% for special education students over the last 4-5 years. So the last year's count on December 1st was 1,602 students in Brainerd. So that's 22% of the population of Brainerd students receive special education services compared to the state average of 15.5%. So we're significantly over the state average for special education services.
Does that mean that the parents are bringing in their special needs kids from outside of the school district?
That could be through open enrollment, where students, families see that Brainerd has a wide variety of programming available. I don't have the exact numbers of which are resident student and which are open enrollment students. I could get that to the board, so you guys could have that information.
I would like that.
Okay, absolutely. The next slide breaks it down by disability areas, so you guys can see where we are compared to the state. These are the top 6 disabilities that are represented in the Brainerd Public Schools. Pretty commensurate with the state average in speech, other health disabilities, but the other 4 areas, specific learning disability is double of what the state average is, as well as emotional behavioral disorder, autism disorder, and developmental delay. And so our school psychologists are working with all the school teams to really look at why we have this over-identification of students in Brainerd.
When you refer to other health disability, what are you talking about there?
So other health disabilities can be if a student has diabetes, if they have ADHD, if they have traumatic brain injury falls under other health disability as well. So there's a variety of medical diagnoses that fall under that.
Sure.
Yep. And then developmental delay has had a huge increase just because of the early identification. I think that medical professionals, daycare providers are doing a better job of identifying children that need those early intervention services. And that's why those numbers look really high. But with the early interventions, the number of kids that go into K isn't representative of that number. So it's a little hard to track that. And then next we'll have Kate and Amy.
Thank you. So, this is, oh my gosh, I just use this other one.
Yeah, it might be easier.
So this is just kind of an overview of autism spectrum disorder under an educational criteria. So for students, if they do have a medical diagnosis from a physician, that doesn't necessarily mean that they receive special education services within the school district. We do an evaluation, and they have to qualify meeting the MDE state criteria for autism spectrum disorders. And the three core areas are communication, restricted repetitive behavior, and then social interaction.
And we have seen a significant increase in the ASD numbers in the last 10 years. And there are kind of a variety of reasons for it. We use kind of the gold standard for autism assessment, which is some of the, we've had some discussion amongst the co-op staff, just are we catching more, and regionally we're a part of a group. But really, we're seeing an increase statewide. So change in the DSM criteria could be, we've done some where we've done a reevaluation, and really we've found that they were under social emotional behavior disorder, and really autism is a better fit, and that's just more school experience, and so some of that is the shifting. Risk factors are always, we go into a lot of homes and we see some risk factors there. And then siblings, if families have siblings with autism, they're more likely to have more children with it.
Can you go back just one slide, please?
Yeah.
So in 6 years, we had 92 up to 223. And you gave some of the reasons or potential reasons. So are there more, or is it just, we're just identifying more, it's always existed?
I think a combination of all of the above. There is the inclusion with those milder cases, more of the higher functioning kids with autism, where 10, 15 years ago, or even when we were in high school, they were just the quirky kids and didn't receive special ed services. So some of those are being identified and included and receiving programming specific to the social emotional. They might be very successful academically and performing very highly academically, but that social aspect is a struggle, and then therefore qualifies them for special ed services. Also, like developmental delay is just an early childhood or label category. So then if they're early identified then, and then when they turn 7, they have to go to a categorical label. So some of those kids are going in under ASD as well. There are just more people with autism.
And I think there's tons of research going on. No one has a solid answer. There's speculation that, we're identifying it better. No one has a concrete answer as to why we're seeing an increase in numbers.
But ours is going up much faster than the state as a whole.
Correct.
Any thoughts on why that is?
Not really.
And she referenced the ADOS is kind of our gold standard, the assessment tool we use, which really doesn't have a high false positive rate. So we do feel like we're doing a pretty thorough job of not over-identifying.
Because you said some children on that spectrum
Right.
don't get your services.
Right, they may have autism, but it's not significant enough to qualify.
Okay,
for special
and these are only the ones that get the services?
Correct. Yeah.
Jen, how about at your previous district? Is there that kind of an increase there? Did you
Yeah,
notice?
we had a pretty high increase over the last 10 years as well. And I think as more services have come into rural Minnesota, that's where you've seen a higher increase compared to like the metro. As, you know, there's the new Autism Matters Center that has opened up in Baxter. I know there's a huge waiting list there right now. They're getting in families, doing diagnostics assessments. So I think as more resources are flooding into the communities, that's why we're seeing a higher increase of those medical diagnoses, and those parents come to the school district requesting the educational evaluation.
One of the biggest things, just for Kate and I, our personal kind of work within the co-op, that we see is a big change or shift has been less facilitated play in that kindergarten and early childhood age. And that's when really the basis of social emotional learning and joint attention. And without those, that's really the skill deficit along with autism. So not saying that those kids don't have autism, but if it's some of those milder cases and are being taught directly those skills, then they may not be, you know, in 5th and 6th grade struggling as much and not being referred. That's just kind of our own personal.
Can kids that have autism, can they be healed from it, pulled out of it?
Not from autism, but they can acquire skills.
Okay. Are there drugs that can medicate it?
Not autism.
Okay.
There's a lot of comorbidity with ADHD or other sort of things that can be medicated, but there aren't medications for autism.
And the ones that are developmentally delayed, can they go back in the regular classroom sometimes? They just needed to catch up?
Yep, some of the students who have that early identification and early intervention, then when we reevaluate at the age of 7, they may not qualify anymore and have made up skills.
I would say a significant amount of the numbers represented here are in general education settings but need that support for that socialization, group work, being able to kind of participate in that classroom environment.
It's also important, correct, that we look at autism as a variable and not necessarily a negative or something difficult necessarily.
Right.
Absolutely.
Just a different way of learning, and a lot of our work kind of this year that we're focusing on is trying to embed social emotional learning within the mainstream classrooms and within the academics, and not just to the pull-out special ed services, so.
And I think we're just getting better at catching kids that academically are doing really well, but really aren't functioning well in the classroom. So it's not their issue isn't accessing the content, it's being a part of the classroom environment. So it's tolerating the noises, it's tolerating, you know, other people having different ideas than them and being able to work through that instead of having to be removed from the classroom, so. So it's called the ADAM project, and it isn't representative. You guys have a handout from it, but really only 11 communities are participating in these counts. Not for the ones that we showed you through special ed, but that's how we're getting all the overall numbers. And Minnesota's is higher than the national average. Minnesota's is 1 out of 42, and the national is 1 out of 59. But it's a sample of Hennepin and Ramsey, I think, is that accurate? The two biggest. So it didn't count, this ADAM network doesn't look at this region specifically. And it is only in 11 other states, so
This kind of shows that.
Perfect. So this isn't a good sample size, but it's all they have right now for participants. So they're hoping to kind of get a better idea nationwide what this looks like.
Any other questions regarding autism? We'll have Nancy come up next and talk specifically about programming.
Thank you.
Could we have that?
Thank you.
Could we have, or do we have?
We should have that
We don't
on
have
our
that.
board book,
Is
if we
it
can
over?
get the PowerPoint.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep, Janet has it.
Sure, and you remember I was here a couple of years ago and talked a little bit about the numbers too and autism, and I think just one other thought is that over the years of my experience of working with kids with emotional and behavioral disorders, oftentimes students with autism years ago, that's where they ended up, or they ended up in developmental cognitive delay. Oftentimes those kids too sometimes have not all, many of them are very bright and do fine academically, but we also see some that can also have cognitive deficits, so sometimes the kids ended up labeled there, where I think we're better at looking at as autism as the primary disability rather than EBD, emotionally and behaviorally disordered, or cognitive disability. So I think you're seeing a shift in some of those numbers too. So how do we service these students across the Brainerd district that you just heard how many students we have in special education? And in the world of special ed, there's something called a federal setting. And federal setting is about where are the students receiving those services. So when you were asking those questions, are they in the regular classroom? Federal setting helps us know how the students are being served. So if you take a look at this, federal setting and special ed, federal setting 1 is students that are being pulled out of the mainstream setting less than 21% of the day. So their vast majority of their day, they're in the regular classrooms being serviced by general education teachers. They may need to be pulled out for one class a day or something, for whatever that is that the student needs. It could be academic, it could be behavioral, it could be social emotional, it really depends. Setting 2 are students that receive services away from the mainstream setting, 21% at more than 21%, but less than 60% of the day. So these are students who have a little more significant needs, need to have that smaller group setting, more direct instruction. Again, could be academic, could be behavioral, could be functional skills. It just really varies on the students. Federal setting 3 are students who receive their special education services. They're pulled away from the mainstream more than 60% of the day. So they're receiving a good majority of the day, they're receiving services by a special education teacher, not a general education teacher. And some of those students may be in what we call self-contained setting 3 classrooms. So those are classrooms where the student spends the vast majority of their day, and they might go out to the mainstream for a 1 or 2 class a day. It just really depends on the student. And then setting 4 is Lincoln Education Center. So that's students that are pulled away from they're in a separate site more than half of the day. So those are the students served at Lincoln. So currently in the Brainerd system, we have 733 of our students are being served in setting 1. 331 of our students are being served in setting 2, federal setting 2. And then setting 3, we have 132 students being served in that. And then there's 64 students served at the Lincoln Education Center that are in a setting 4 program. Then early childhood has different federal settings. They don't use 1, 2, 3, and 4. They have something similar. They have like 31 and 32 and 33, and I'm not the early childhood. That's Julie Domino's expertise, but they do have 388 students are currently being served birthed to 5 in our early childhood special education too. So that makes up that 1,600 or whatever our overall child count was. That's where those kids are being serviced. So across the district, what does that look for staffing? So if you look at birth to 3, this is looking at just early childhood special ed only. In birth to 3, and again, birth to 3 is serving students, and again, in special education, we're actually required to serve students birth through 21. So starting at birth, those kids that are identified that need services, we have 5 special education teachers who are servicing those students. We have 6 SLPs. SLPs are speech language pathologists. But the 6 SLPs are not serving just birth to 3, they're serving birth to 5. They're serving all of our early childhood. Birth to 3 students are typically served either in the home, they're supposed to be served in their natural environment. So that's either in the home or childcare setting. So those teachers are going out into those settings, those kids aren't coming into the school. Then when they turn 3, or when they turn 3, 3 to 5, those students are coming into what we call kind of center-based. So they're either here at Washington, over at the Learning Center, Nisswa and Baxter also have early childhood special education programming. And so we have 17 special ed teachers across those settings. And then 7 of those classrooms are what we would call level 3 or self-contained. Those are for those kids that need to be in that smaller setting, more than 60% or so of the day, they need to be with a specialized small group. They have more intense needs. Looking at our elementary buildings, you can see Baxter has 4.5 special education teachers, 2 speech language pathologists, and they don't have any level 3 or self-contained classroom at Baxter. Garfield has 6 special ed teachers, 1.8 speech pathologists, and they have 1 level 3, what we call a self-contained classroom. Harrison has 4 special ed, 1 SLP, and 1 self-contained classroom. Lowell has 4 special ed teachers, a 0.8 speech language pathologist, and they do not have a self-contained classroom. Nisswa has 3 special ed teachers, a 0.6 SLP, and 1 level 3 or self-contained. And Riverside has 12.5 special education teachers, 2.4 SLPs, and 6 self-contained classrooms. Middle and high school, you can see Forest View has 24.6 special ed teachers, 3 SLPs. They have 5 self-contained classrooms. The high school, 20.4, 0.6, and then 5 also level 3. Lincoln has 12 special ed teachers. Their SLP, they share with the high school. That person serves Lincoln and the high school, and then they are a level 4 setting. AEC has 2 special ed teachers. Their speech path is shared with ECSE. And then we have those 2 Transition Plus. When I talked about we in special ed, we have to service students through 21. Transition Plus is programming for our kids that are 18 to 21, who have identified needs and continued service that they need to have. So, and those are considered actually level 4 because they are more self-contained, separate site programs. Any questions?
Share that one with us too, Em.
Yep.
Just going back to that last screen really quick.
Yep.
The Transition Plus, do you see that growing since it seems like we have more needs?
Yeah. One of the things that I've had conversation with district administration is as we've had we've had a group of kids with a lot of it tend to be our students with some cognitive deficits that need that continued programming. And we've had a group that kind of went through, we had to shift from Forest View to the high school, and they're going to be shifting into Transition Plus programming. So we're kind of seeing this, that it is growing and expanding. When you talk about some of our, our child count is high. Some of that, I think, is attributed to having 2 programs. We're the only district in the region that has Transition Plus programs like that in our cooperative. So we draw a lot of students. So it's not just our Brainerd students, but we draw from the Crosby and Aiken and Pine River and Pequot. And the same with Lincoln. Lincoln comes into our child count as well, and Lincoln also services other schools, not just Brainerd students. So that also is a big draw. As well, I would say our DCD or our cognitive programming at the high school has grown. A lot of parents, I think, start as they know students are going to come over this way. Some of them start open enrolling earlier and in high school too. So,
Nancy, what are the reasons why the special ed population continues to grow?
That's that's a big question. I don't know that I have the full answer. We're seeing an increase we have had more referrals at the high school level than we ever used to. Typically, you would think we've caught the students before they reach high school. There's a lot more. One of the large growth areas is that OHD. You asked about other health disability. A lot of parents will come in, we get those diagnoses of ADHD, attention deficit disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and we have to, they can qualify for services. So again, if they have needs and they have that medical diagnosis and meet the criteria, they can get services. So as kids start struggling and having more problems at the upper grades, sometimes those medical diagnoses are sought. It's just a combination of things. I think in high, ASD with that large increase we're seeing. Learning disability is on the rise, too, as well. Dyslexia, with a reading, which really is a reading disability. And so seeing an increase in that as well, so.
Can I add one thing? Sure. So Mike Parry, school psychologist with the Paul Bunyan Co-op, and just the numbers indicate obviously an increasing trend, but I think it's important to keep an eye on how it's an opportunity to look at what's happening school-wide, district-wide in terms of core instruction, social emotional learning, tier 2, so initiatives that some schools have adopted like RTI or multi-tiered systems of support, positive behavior supports, supporting all students so that, you know, some kids are going to come in, they're going to have autism, they're going to have some sort of organic developmental disability that we can't prevent. But that's just something to keep in mind. It's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity to focus on preventing things going forward.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you. Very helpful, thank you.
Yeah. Next up, we have Connie Flowers and Corey Reynolds with a voluntary pre-K update.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We just wanted to quickly inform the board of a recent award that the state awarded Brainerd Public Schools. We're very excited about the new opportunity to be selected as a voluntary preschool site or district. Out of the 4 sites that we have, our Washington location, right where we are here today, was selected to receive 38 voluntary pre-K spots, which is very exciting for our district. We've been applying for this for the last, I think, 5 years. And this will provide the opportunity for early childhood families to receive free preschool, tuition free, as well as the opportunity for transportation for those families that need it. 2 very large barriers for families in our communities. And so this voluntary pre-K will allow for some more opportunities for families in our district. So we, out of the 4, like I mentioned, it's only for this location, and part of that had to do with the location being within the Riverside School District boundary. And so we are working through some ways to provide some priority registration for that. Because of the short notice of this, we are working through how we're kind of selecting families for that. And a few of those would be the attendance boundary. So Riverside families that are within this boundary, as well as the close proximity to Harrison as well. The reason for that selection here at Washington was due to that. So we're working through some of the selection of that and are filling quickly and working through the implementation of that very quickly. So we just wanted to notify you. Transportation has worked really well with us as well with this new news for them as well, and a very busy season for their office as well. So they've been very helpful in kind of working through how that's going to look for our early childhood students. This would be specifically for 4-year-olds, so kids that are 4 by September 1 of the current year. Any questions?
So where did the award come from?
It came from MDE.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. And from what I gather, it should be good for 2 years until the legislators review the budget again. So that's.
So this won't be additional children in the program though, right? Because you don't have any room for additional
We don't
children.
have any room, so that, right.
So
If we
it'll be-
did, that would be great, but we are currently using existing spots to then kind of reallocate to be voluntary pre-K. So that has opened up other opportunities as well. So we still have openings now. We were able to kind of shift some people too into this site that were placed within other different locations for our programming. And then we can provide more scholarships because we also receive a large amount of pathway scholarships every year. So this reallocation of voluntary pre-K will now open up more scholarship opportunities as well. Yeah. It's very exciting. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Donnie.
Thanks, Tony.
Okay, now we have our action items. First up, we have the approval of terrazzo stairs in the new Baxter Elementary School for $74,854.
I'll make a motion to approve doing the terrazzo stores in New Baxter Elementary School for $74,854.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Campbell. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up, the approval of the terrazzo for the locker bay area on the second floor of the Baxter Elementary, $91,705. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second? If there is no second, then I guess it goes.
Well, we could make a second and just
Di-
discuss
we
it. So I will do a second and we'll discuss it.
Okay. All right.
I think what we're feeling is maybe we need to hold on this one until we have some more idea on some of those other costs that are going way up.
I agree. I don't think we should do this. Any other discussion?
I like the idea, but I agree. I kind of feel a tad hesitant right now.
Okay.
For me, I just think it's an investment in the future. Just take a look at this building here. It's 90 years old and it's all original terrazzo. I mean, it'll last forever. So, and this building is gonna go for 70 or 80 years. Wouldn't you say?
More?
A good chance, maybe even more? Yeah. So why not invest in it now? That's how I feel.
Okay, we have a first from Director Nystrom and a second from Director Nelson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We got two. And those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Motion fails, 2-4. Okay. Next up, the approval of the dissolving cooperative sponsorship agreement with Pillager. Charlie's going to talk to us.
Yes, very simply, Pillager has requested for these two activities to dissolve the existing cooperative agreements that we have. We fully support this. They're choosing to pursue some cooperative agreement opportunities with Little Falls, which is really a sensible arrangement for them. There may be others coming down the pike. Our philosophy the last maybe 5 years has been to not establish cooperative agreements unless we feel that we really need them, and to offer the programs for our own kids. And we have not actively dissolved any that exist. So Pillager has made this request, and it would be my recommendation that we support it. And the high school league does require board action for that to happen.
Do they have any other cooperative?
Yes, we have a variety of cooperative agreements with Pillager and a couple of our surrounding districts. Off the top of my head,
Like downhill skiing?
we are with Pequot Lakes with downhill skiing. Pillager, we've had dance, girls swimming. Yeah, we do not have it with gymnastics with them, and they actually approached me a couple of years ago with an initial request about gymnastics, and we said we don't really need that. We have a really strong program here in Brainerd, and we'd love for your kids to enroll in our school district because we have a great school district. And that was actually what started the discussion. They're pursuing that. Pillager and Little Falls are pursuing that. Little Falls really could use the gymnasts, much like we kind of need Little Falls for girls hockey. It allows us to run 2 full levels, JV and varsity. We have some scenarios where that really works for us. Wrestling is another one with Pillager that works really well for us. It fills our weight classes and makes sure that we're competing at a higher level than we might otherwise do on our own. And so, again, we may see more of these, but this is not going to impact our programs. We've got a good relationship, and they're going to pursue some more opportunities with Little Falls, and I think that's a sensible thing for them to do.
I'll move the approval of the dissolving the sponsorship agreement with Pillager for girls swimming and diving.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nelson, a second from Director Campbell. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, the approval of the dissolution with a cooperative sponsorship agreement with Pillager for the dance program.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nelson, a second from Director Nystrom. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Thanks. Brainerd Public Schools Foundation report.
They did not meet, Ms. Chair. They do kick off again here in the next couple of weeks with their meetings again, so.
Thank you. Next up, Marcy is going to talk to us about our business services report here.
In your packet is the financial report as of May. Nothing to note. We were right on track comparing last year's budget 80.71% when you take out the construction and debt service funds. It was 79.46% this month. And then I just wanted to note that the June report will be, until we have final numbers, I won't be giving you that report. So at the next board meeting, we'll have the new report starting in July. And then once we have those numbers, we're in the process of closing. Once we have those numbers for June, I'll give you that final report. And that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Looks good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Superintendent Larson.
All right, just a couple of things. I'd like to take just a moment tonight to introduce a new employee on our staff that we're really excited to have. And we have Angie Bennett here. Angie, would you stand to be recognized tonight? Angie is our new Human Resources Director for the district. And we're really excited to have Angie here. She comes to us from Elk River, Minnesota, and today was her very first day. So she's had a busy day already, starting at 7:30 this morning when we welcomed all of our clerical staff back all the way through a very lengthy board meeting. So welcome to Brainerd. We're excited to have you here. Other than that, just a couple of things that aren't in your agenda. I just would like to remind the board that next Monday at 8 a.m. we have our new teacher breakfast at Forest View Middle School. Are we going to be able to drive in the front for that and park in the parking lot on next Monday? Okay. And then we have project oversight team on Tuesday, the 20th at 8 a.m. And then the following Monday will be the all-staff welcome back at 8 o'clock at Wesby Tornstrom Auditorium. Our theme this year is Under Kidstruction, so we're having lots of fun with that. So, and our next board meeting will be the 26th, and we'll take another optional tour if you're interested up to Nisswa to see the progress of our project. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And then, of course, the open houses and Labor Day, the district offices will be closed. First day of school, September 3rd.
And at your seats, Janet has assigned everyone to the school, and if you'll try to be there by 7:30 that morning, we would sure appreciate it. So it'll be fun to have the board members greet the little ones when they get off the bus.
Very good. If there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Director Nystrom, a second from Director Campbell. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We are adjourned.